Hello everyone, my name is Xiao Yafei and this is our group topic, logical thinking, and this is our group members. And this is a lesson outline. There are 8 parts of our topic. The first one is the introduction. The definition of logical thinking. Logical thinking is a structured and semantic way of reasoning that evaluates information and draw justified conclusions. It involves identifying premise, checking whether conclusions follow logically, and applying deductive, inductive, and abductive reasoning. It also requires a sense evidence, recognizing base and distinguishing valued argument from followed ones. And the next one is the origin and the background of logic. Logic originated in ancient Greece, where Aristotle first formalized the rules of reasoning. Over time, it developed into symbolic and mathematical logic, influencing modern disciplines such as computer science, mathematics, linguistics, and psychology. Today, logical serves as a foundation for form systems and everyday critical thinking. And the last one is the role of logical thinking. Logical thinking plays an essential role in personal life, education, and professional environments. It supports sound decision making, strengthens academic learning, enhances problem solving, and improve communication and argumentation in science and ethics. It ensures clarity, consistency, and retentional evolution.
Hello, Professor. My name is Wang Zhaowei, and my student's number is 8205324. The part that I am responsible for is concepts and principles of logical thinking. So I divided them into 4 parts: the meaning of logic, characteristics of logical thinking, fundamental principles of logic, significance of these principles. So what is logic? Logic is the study of reasoning, providing a framework to evaluate the validity and coherence of an argument based on evidence rather than emotion or bias. Logical thinking has many important characteristics, such as based on facts and evidence, seeks objective or verifiable information before making judgments, follows valid argument structures, employs standard reasoning methods like deduction, induction, and abduction, avoids fallacies, identifies and avoids common reasoning traps like autonomy of false cause, assesses truth and consistency of arguments, checks for internal coherence and alignment with known factors. So, the key word of this PPT, I think, is based on factors, follow valid argument structure, avoid fallacies, and assesses truth and consistency of arguments. If we want to use logical thinking, we must follow these fundamental principles. The principle 1 is identity. A equal to A. A concept must maintain a consistent meaning throughout an argument. The principle 2 is non-contradiction. A statement and its negation cannot both be true simultaneously. The principle 3 is excluded made. Any statement must be either true or false, with no made ground. In conclusion, logical rules have significant value, such as in education. They enable students to construct coherent essays, accurately analyze data, and present persuasive arguments in science and math. They underpin hypothesis testing, proofs, and data interpretation. In daily life, they guide individuals in making rational decisions and help avoid confusion by illogical claims. By internalizing these principles, individuals can cultivate a rigorous, critical, and structured way of thinking, which is essential for both intellectual and practical success.
I will be presenting on the topic of logic thinking, types and forms. This is an essential subject that applies across various disciplines, from research to decision making. Today we'll be dividing into 3 key forms of reasoning: deductive, inductive, and abductive, and how each plays a vital role in logic thinking. On this slide, we have an overview of logic thinking, which is a process of analyzing information, evaluating evidence, and forming reasoned conclusions. Logic thinking is fundamental in academic research, problem-solving, and professional decision-making. It helps us process information clearly and accurately. There are 3 major forms of logic reasoning that we'll explore in this presentation: deductive, inductive, and abductive reasoning. Each of these forms use different methods of reasoning and evidence evaluation. The key takeaway here is that each reasoning type has its own role to play, depending on the situation at hand. Whether we need certainty, probability, or the most precise explanation, we will use different approaches. Now let's start by examining deductive and inductive reasoning, the 2 foundational types of logic thinking. Deductive reasoning operates from a general premise to a specific conclusion. It's a top-down approach, where you start with a broad rule or law and apply it to a specific situation. If the premises are true and the reasoning is valid, the conclusion must be true as well. For example, all mammals breathe. A cow is a mammal, therefore a cow breathes. This conclusion is granted by the truth of the premises. Deductive reasoning is essential in fields like mathematics, law, and science. However, it's important to note that even if one premise is false, the entire conclusion can become invalid. On the other hand, inductive reasoning works the opposite way. It's a bottom-up approach that starts with specific observations and builds up to broader generalizations. For instance, every bird I've seen can fly, therefore all birds must be able to fly. Well, this seems logical, but it's not entirely true since exceptions exist, like penguins. Inductive reasoning is commonly used in scientific research. While repeated observations leads to the formation of hypotheses or theories, while conclusions are probable rather than certain. Inductive reasoning is important for developing theories and predictions. Next, let's take a look at abductive reasoning, which is often called inference to the best explanation. Abductive reasoning is used when we have incomplete or ambiguous information, and our goal is to find the most plausible explanation. It's particularly useful when we cannot be sure of the facts, but we still need to make a logical decision. For example, imagine there is a puddle on the road. The most likely explanation is that it rained last night. While this might be the most plausible explanation, it's not guaranteed to be true. The puddle could have been caused by something else, like a broken pipe. Objective reasoning is widely used in everyday life, medical diagnosis, criminal investigations, and technique troubleshooting. While it's not always 100% accurate, it helps us make decisions with limited data, especially when time is of the essence. The main stress of abductive reasoning is its flexibility in uncertain situations. However, it's important to note that the conclusions drawn from abductive reasoning are not guaranteed to be correct, as they can be influenced by assumptions or missing evidence. To wrap this up, each of the three reasoning types, deductive, inductive, and abductive, serves its purpose in logic thinking. Depending on the situation, deductive reasoning offers certainty, inductive reasoning suggests probable outcomes, and abductive reasoning helps us come to the most plausible conclusions when faced with incomplete information.
Number 4. The process of logical thinking. Logical thinking follows a systematic process that enables individuals to move from identifying a problem to reaching a reasoned and valid conclusions. This process ensures that decisions and judgments are based on evidence, structured analysis, and consistency rather than guesses or emotions. The main stages include identifying the problem, collecting evidence, analyzing arguments, forming conclusions, and testing validity. Each stage plays an essential role in ensuring that reason remains sound and objective. Step 1. Identifying the problem. The first and most important step in logical thinking is to clearly define and recognize the main issue or question that needs to be addressed. Without a clear understanding of the problem, reasoning may become confused or misled. This stage involves distinguishing between the symptoms of problem and its root cause. Step 2. Collecting evidence. Once the problem is identified, the next step is to gather relevant facts, data, and supporting information. Logical thinking requires evidence-based reasoning. Conclusions must be supported by objective information, not personal opinions or assumptions. Evidence can come from multiple sources, such as observations, experiments, academic research, statistics, or expert opinions. It is important to assess the credibility of each source to avoid bias or misinformation. Step 3. Analyzing arguments. After collecting information, the third step involves evaluating the strength and validity of arguments. This means examining whether the evidence truly supports the conclusions and whether there are any logical fallacies, inconsistencies in reasoning. During this stage, logical thinkers often use techniques such as comparing different viewpoints, identifying assumptions, and testing for logical coherence. They check whether the reasoning follows a valid structure. For example, ensuring that the conclusion follows logically from the premises. Step 4. Form conclusions. Draw answers from your analysis. Stick to facts. Don't overstate. If there's not enough proof, don't say things are certain. Finally, there's test validity. Check if conclusions follow logical and knowing truth. Look again at your argument to fix hidden problem.
5. The application of logical thinking in problem solving. Logical thinking plays an essential role in the problem-solving process because it enables individuals to approach issues in an organized, objective, and systematic manner. In daily life, we encounter various types of problems: personal, social, academic, and professional. Without logical thinking, the solutions chosen may be ineffective or may even worsen the situation. Through logical thinking, a person is able to, first, identify the real problem that needs to be solved instead of being distracted by surface-level symptoms. Second, analyze information systematically, including cause, effects, and hidden patterns. Third, draw valid inference based on facts rather than intuition or unsupported assumptions. Fourth, evaluate solution options rationally, weighing their strengths and weaknesses before selecting the most appropriate alternative. Fifth, implement solutions structurally and make adjustments when necessary, especially if the initial approach proves ineffective. For example, in a workplace setting, a project manager experiencing project delays can apply logical thinking to determine the underlying cause. Instead of immediately blaming staff or altering the workflow, the manager examines data to identify whether the delay is due to supply issues, scheduling errors or manpower shortages. This process leads to a more accurate and effective action plan. So, logical thinking also relies on emotions, first impressions, or external pressure, all of which can lead to biased judgments. It promotes reflective thinking and supports sound, long-term decision-making. Another example situation: declining academic performance in mathematics. So background is Ali, a former 5 student, noticed a significant drop in his mathematics test score from 75% to 48%. Feeling discouraged and uncertain about the course, he decided to apply a logical thinking approach to address this issue. So the steps of logical thinking applied: first, identifying the specific problem. Instead of merely observing that his marks have dropped, Ali reviews his test paper and pinpoints the topics responsible. He discovers that he made the most mistake in linear algebra and probability. So, second, gathering relevant information. Ali collects data related to his performance, such as class attendance, which is he realized he frequently skipped additional mathematics class, practice work, large sections of algebra exercise in his workbook are incomplete. Learning style: he tends to memorize formulas rather than understand the concepts. And the third step is analyzing the root cause. From the collected information, Ali concludes that insufficient practice in key topics, and missing extra class are the main contributors to his declining performance. The first step is suggesting and selecting solutions. Ali proposed several strategies and choose the most practiced one, like create a revision schedule focusing on weak topics, use digital learning tools such as quiz, YouTube tutorials, attend extra class consistently, join a study group with classmates strong in algebra. And the final step is testing and evaluating effectiveness. After months of applying these strategies, Ali takes a new test and scores 68%. He feels more confident with algebra questions, showing that the chosen solutions are effective. So the conclusion through this logical thinking, Ali identified the problem systematically. He relied on evidence rather than assumptions. He evaluated outcomes and made adjustments based on effectiveness. This example demonstrated how logical thinking leads to structured, objective, and evidence-based actions that significantly improve academic performance.
Let's discuss the advantage and challenges of logical thinking. Logical thinking is an essential cognitive skill, but like any tool, it has both strengths and limitations. Understanding both sides helps us apply it more effectively in real situations. First, let's begin with the advantage. Logical thinking helps us make objective decisions. When we use logic, we examine information in a structured way. This reduces the impact of personal bias and emotion reactions. As a result, our decisions become fairer, more consistent, and better supported by evidence. In many fields, such as law, science, and business, this objectively is crucial for reaching sound judgment. Second, logical decision helps us avoid errors. By following logical principles and analyzing evidence step by step, we can identify the contradictions, false assumptions, or weak arguments before these cause problems. This prevents mistakes based on faulty reasons. Whether we are evaluating research, solving a problem, or debating an issue, logic serves as a safeguard that keeps our thinking clear and precise. What's more, logical thinking strengthens critical thinking. It encourages us to question information, evaluate sources, and explore ideas more deeply. Logical thinking forms the foundation of scientific inquiry and problem solving. It pushed us to look beyond the surface, analyze cause and effect, and search for reliable explanation. In a world filled with complex information, this ability is extremely valuable. However, despite this advantage, logical thinking also faces several challenges. First, human bias and emotion often interfere with logic. No matter how well trained
Okay, the last one is the
we are,
conclusion.
it is
Logical
almost
thinking is a
impossible
crucial
to
skill that enables people
eliminate
to analyze problems
cognitive
clearly,
bias
evaluate
like
events, and
confirmation
make
bias.
rational
Our emotions,
decisions.
such
a
as
fast-changing
fear,
world. This
proud,
report shows that
pride,
logical
and
thinking
anger
through deductive,
can also
inductive,
shape
and
how we
adaptive
interact with
reasoning
information.
provide
As a
structured
result,
method for
even
solving
logical
problems and
thinking
ensure
can
consistency
be
in
influenced
judgment. It
by
enhances
subjective
critical
factors.
thinking,
Second,
reduces errors,
not
and
all
supports
problems
innovation.
can be
So
solved by
challenges
logic
like emotional
alone.
based or incomplete
Ethical
information may
dilemma,
arise.
value
Overall,
conflict,
logical
and
thinking is not only an
interpersonal
academic
issues often
concept but
evoke
a
cultural, morally,
practical life
or
tool that
personality
help
or
individuals
personal
navigate
beliefs. This
complexity,
situation
thinking
requires judgment and
think objectively, and make
understanding.
well-reasoned
Not only pure
decision. Okay, that's
logical
all for our group.
reasons
Thank you.
can guide us, but it cannot fully resolve questions about what is right or fair. Third, logical conclusion depends on the quality of information available. If the evidence is complete, uncertain, or misleading, even the most rigorous reason can lead to incorrect results. In real life, we often have to make decisions with limited information, which means logic can only go as far as the data allow.
Seventh part is about the suggestion of developing logical thinking. There are 5 parts here, namely argument and fallacy analysis, logic, puzzles and games, reading, philosophy and mathematics, critical inquiry approach, reflective practice and feedback. Cultivating logical thinking is a dynamic and slow journey that grows through purposeful practice and activities that stretch your mind. Think of it like training your brain to think accurately and on purpose. A great way to improve this skill is to get into argument and fallacy analysis. Look closely at debates, articles, or media claims to find flaws like hasty generalizations or curricular reasoning. This helps you build strong arguments based on evidence. Logic puzzles and strange games are another fun and useful toy. Sudoku, chess, and riddles make your plans step by step. Guess outcomes and consider many possibilities. They boost problem solving and mental discipline, like a workout for your reasoning skills. Studying philosophy and math also build a strong base. Philosophy makes you break down abstract ideas and judge complex arguments, while math needs process deductive reasoning and teaches you to follow logical rules in order. Having a curious, critical inquiry mindset is also powerful. Instead of just accepting information, ask questions like, why is this true? What evidence is there? Or could there be another reason? This turns learning into an active search and makes sure conclusions are solved. Finally, reflective practice and feedback guide your growth. Look back at past decisions, find where your reasoning went wrong,
and talk about ideas with peers or mentors. Whether you are improving a research project, argument, or rethinking a choice. Together, these ways make logical thinking go from an abstract skill to a natural and flexible part of how you handle school, work, and daily life, helping you thinking clear, decide matter, and reason with confidence. This is my interpretation of the seventh part. I hope to provide some help to those in need.